All right, I'm going to call to order our meeting of March 26th, 2024. Do we have adjustments to the agenda?
I'm going to move to accept the agenda as presented, except for adding a discussion concerning buying a vehicle for the DA under DA section 6F. Also to delete the executive session on Commissioners 12B. Also to add to the treasurer's section 11B, approval to pay Chester Kearney $5,000 for the APRA audit. And to also add to the jail 8B, approval to employ Phineas Fitzpatrick of Cherry Fields, a full-time corrections officer at grade 9 step A, effective 3/30/24. And under Commissioners 12A, approve the employment of Whitney Fonzak of Des Moines, administrative assistant to the commissioners at pay grade 9 step D, effective April 3rd, 2024. April 6th.
All those in favor?
All right.
Do we have any public comment? Right. Approval of the minutes.
I'm going to move to approve the minutes of March 12th, 2024, Commissioners' regular meeting as presented.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Rob?
I'm asking again for ARPA funds to pay for the extract. You already approved it once. But my first software claim billed me my maintenance fee up front. So that's 25,000, which wouldn't leave me with enough to pay for my extract software.
So I'm trying to remember, so this one did it last year too, the same one.
Yeah, you approved it,
Okay.
yes, but Nick might need a little bit more money to help pay for it, so.
And then every year, the maintenance on it's gonna be.
Right, that will be in my budget, yes.
I'm going to move to approve the purchase of extract automated indexing software at a cost of $41,750 to be paid for from the ARPA.
Seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to move to approve and accept the resignation of DA Administrative Assistant Colleen Rocker effective April 3rd, 2024, and to thank her for her service.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry to see you go, Colleen.
Sorry, you're leaving, but it's a great opportunity.
Don't leave the neighborhood.
Oh, yeah, absolutely not.
She's my
I
neighbor.
got a great neighbor.
I'm going to move to promote Misty Everson, from Legal Secretary 1 to Administrative Assistant at pay grade 12, Step C, effective April 3rd, 2024.
Is it gonna be April 3rd or?
Uh, uh,
It has to be March 3rd.
Well, that's back before, I changed everything to April 3rd for these effective dates. Is that true, or should it all be?
So April 3rd is actually Colleen's actual, and then the other two employees, if approved, are gonna start that first week in the positions with a couple days overlap.
So it should be
So it
March
should be
30th.
March 30th.
I'm gonna have to give you a minute to fix these. So the motion. The motion corrected to the effective March 30th, 2020.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just a second. Okay, what are we doing now? Are we doing Bruce Turner? I'm gonna move to promote Caroline Turner, Legal Secretary 3 to Legal Secretary 1, Grade 9, Step B, effective March 30, 2024.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do you want to be heard on your summer intern, Bob?
I have a summer intern, Maria Bellew. She's a first-year law student down in Boston. She's from Skowhegan. And, she's come and visited and likes our office. And very much would like to hire her for our intern position. And requesting that, if possible, that we pay a lump sum at the close of the summer, because she becomes eligible for some additional funding through the law school if she gets a lump sum payment.
And is this in your budget or is this a grant or something?
No, this was in the budget.
It's in your budget. The budget is. And I think the employment is between you guys can work that out.
Yep.
So we don't need that as far as we'll work out the payment.
Yep.
So I'm going to approve the employment of Maria Balloon as the summer intern effective June 3rd, 2024. The date correct?
I believe
To
so.
my knowledge,
Yes.
yes.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye. Now you had an issue of getting a card for the DA's office.
Yeah, I submitted late because I was out of town last week. A request for the for consideration of ARPA funds to purchase a vehicle for the DA's office.
Which is what,
A vehicle for the DA's office.
for the DA.
Yes. Just given the significant travel that's involved in covering my district. Subsequent to that, Dakota, we indicated that the sheriff's office apparently is seeking ARPA funds for a cruiser and was willing to donate their Chevy Traverse to the DA's office. And again, I don't know what, I don't want to step on the
Yeah,
sheriff.
and I can speak in further detail about that coming up.
We saw your report. Go ahead, thank you.
But so I don't know what the commissioners want to do. We had some discussions previously about just getting straight funding for the DA's.
Well, here's, thinking about this and whatnot, here's my thoughts. In purchasing a vehicle, we presently have ARPA funds available to purchase a vehicle. But if we transfer the Traverse to you, in a couple of years, you're gonna need a replacement, we won't have the ARPA funds available. And we'll have to take that out of the budget. If we buy you a new vehicle now, out of ARPA, that'll last 5, hopefully 6 years. In the meantime, you can put 7,000 or 8,000 each year in a reserve account. By the time you need to replace that vehicle, you can, you'll have money. So, John, I would support buying the DA's office a vehicle, and if you concur, I would like to propose that we buy brand new, so it will last him several years before it has to be replaced, and then he could take it out of his reserve account.
Yeah, I don't really have any issue with that. I just want to make sure that we start having the other county maybe look at this a little bit to contribute. This thing to,
Again,
taking care of it this time, but, you know.
again, I'm doing these in steps only because it's difficult to work with two counties. Same with the detective position. Got to approach Washington County next year to get some supplemental funding.
And I think that's the issue, is that we'll cover the cost of the vehicle because it's ARPA funds. And I think you need to start Washington County about sharing the cost of that vehicle in the next 7 years.
Well, my impression is that we'll be able to bill Washington County for my trips. Mail rate, 67 cents a mile.
Yeah, right now they're billing us.
So we'll be, if I have a vehicle, a cash card, we can bill those funds. I don't know which,
Hopefully we can go the other way and charge them.
Good, that's what we'd like to see.
and where those funds would go, I don't know.
Now, John, as we have found out in whatnot, in short, the bid process simply doesn't work for cruisers, and it doesn't work for passenger cars. And we found that out with passenger cars very vividly here lately with trying to buy a vehicle from the DA's office. And we bid that, and all we got was one bid. And so we rejected that bid, came up with a lump sum, sent the DA's office back, said, there you go, get all you can for this amount. And it turned out they got the bid vehicle, which is over $60,000 for $55,000 by negotiating. So I think that should tell us that we should acknowledge that the bid process, because I firmly believe we should be spending our money in Hancock County, and there's only 2 dealerships in Hancock County, they're owned by the same company, that we're gonna have to acknowledge the bid process doesn't work. And same with cruisers, there's only a couple places to get those, and we're not getting them. So with regards to passenger cars for the county, I believe that we should simply decide how much we want to spend for a vehicle and give that amount to the department. Let them take that and go out and see how much of a vehicle they can get for that and negotiate that cost, because as I said, in the DA's office, that worked real good. So that saved us over $5,000 and you got a nice vehicle. And right now, I think that's going to work well because the rebates are going up every week. So if you agree to that,
Sure, 50,000.
well, I'm going to move to approve $50,000 from the ARPA account for the DA to purchase a vehicle at one of the 2 automobile dealerships in Hancock County. So Bob, what this means is that, just like last time, you're free to go out, sit down with your dealer, look over his lot, find a vehicle. You can get a $55,000 vehicle for $50,000 through negotiations and whatnot. Good. You can do the best you can, and you can have whatever you can get for $50,000.
If you can get a $40,000 vehicle for
That- If you can get 40,000, probably other.
Up to,
But, yes. Did I say that? Well,
yes, you did.
up to. And just to be clear, Monica, he's free to bring you in an invoice. This has been approved, and whenever you find it, get an invoice, take it to Monica, and she'll cut you a check.
All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Anything else?
No, I think that covers it.
Goodbye, Colleen. Thank you very much for your service.
Thank you.
Okay. Be neighborly.
Absolutely.
Christie, congratulations.
Thank you.
This is Carol.
Caroline, congratulations.
Thank you.
Good to see everybody moving up.
Thank you.
All right, now we have we don't have any bids, right, on the airport.
Yeah,
That's-
no, we got nothing.
Well, I'm asked to leave this, excuse me, I asked to leave this on the agenda because I wanted to give Leroy some direction on what to do with this junk. You know, what I mean? And that's why you didn't get any bids. It's
Yeah.
really just a bunch of junk. And I'm just wondering, Leroy, is there any chance that you, through discussion with your public and whatnot, can find willing buyers for something just to get this out of the way?
It's possible, yeah, to find somebody, you're right, it's probably the best thing is scrap for most of it. And, it's whatever they're bringing, scrap pricing is bringing. But yeah, this was just the tip of the iceberg of things that are out here that been sitting around for years that really just need to be gone.
Okay, now,
Dennis, what did you want to say?
I do have some interest in the sweeper.
it's your first disposal point.
With
Yeah, yeah.
this tractor that would receive that as a PTO rear sweeper device, and if it works out, it might be useful
Well,
for us.
I'm gonna suspect you're gonna get a hell of a deal, so.
Yeah, exactly.
John, I'm going to make this motion that we acknowledge there were no bids received and to give the airport manager the authority to disperse of the property as he sees fit.
Seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Lou?
Okay, thank you.
Jail staffing, we discussed about, that they put a first one nights. I talked with the staff, they're willing to sign an MOU, saying that we can put a fifth staff on until the next contract is signed, see if that's, can we absorb into the next budget contract. It's for one person, talk to Monica over this, it's $71,809
For the balance of this year?
for, that's for picking somebody up, that's for a year, that's a whole year. We discussed maybe splitting that two people for a half a year, from July 1st on to the end of the year. That would be the cost of $71,809.
Problem is, you don't have 71, right?
That's correct.
Dennis, we talked about this and whatnot. Do you see,
But two other budget items that we split that remain, and that is waste disposal and the sprinkler systems and inspections.
how much would that, if you paid the entire amount, how much would he save?
With sprinklers, it comes to, I think the fee is $150 a couple times a year, not much. But waste, a couple $1,000.
We're a long ways from 71,000.
Yeah, but any other expenses that they consider, well, there's the snow plow, which would save another 2,500 a year, but
I have to yield to John, but my theory is that you can overrun your approval. You can.
right.
So I'm thinking that if you picked up fuel, you picked up lights, because you're already paying some of that anyway.
I already pay all of that,
You paid fuel and lights already?
yes.
Is there any more of those things that you buying, that he's buying too, that we can?
Well, there is the ongoing maintenance, building maintenance, which is in your budget around
That's around,
50.
yeah, it's around 50, you want to say?
50,000?
I want to say.
Well, that's a good chunk.
We can work together, that's what you want.
I think that's what I was gonna suggest is that, Michael, if you, Dennis and Tim can get together and come up with somewhere in the neighborhood of $70,000 in savings, then come back with that plan and we'll approve this, because you've got time between now and July 1st.
Right.
And that's just off the top of my head as well, and maybe other things. I want to be creative, but I don't want it to also indicate that I'm a poor manager because my budget's blown out of the water.
Well, I'll
Like I
tell you,
said, those caveats.
yours or mine.
Dennis-
Touche, I guess.
We go to great lengths to create the budget, discuss that. We never talk about the end of the year. You know what I mean? And so shame on us, maybe we should be looking at that better, but nevertheless. And of course, we understand that if you're overrunning your budget,
Yeah, but more for the sake of levity.
and if for some reason we forget, remind us.
That's really it. I haven't heard back from George Smith about funding mechanism of the opioid funds for the CRMA and the facilities and trying to get that clarification. I can't see how we could refuse that. I mean, that person would be dispensed of.
Like to see something, awesome, something productive.
I think that, I don't see how they can say that once they finally get him on the phone and talk to.
So, volume, skip going.
Okay.
I'm going to move that we approve the employment of Phineas Fitzpatrick of Cherryfield as full-time corrections officer at grade 9, step A, effective, Tim?
Chris said it was the 30th, I believe.
What's the date?
Be March 30th, 2024.
Effective March 30, 2024.
Second, all those in favor?
All right,
Thank you.
I'll play with you. One. First item on the agenda with the residency requirement.
now, when we left this last, we're gonna take agenda thoughts, put them all together. Since then, I made a couple suggestions and asked Mike to discuss that with me. So that one of them was, started the shift at the county line. The other one was to eliminate Washington County as a possibility. Do you guys have any happening on that?
I think that, we've discussed it and, given our proposal and, your willingness to work with us. Initially, previous, to this, we had a 5-mile living variance is what we're going off of. So that 5 miles effectively would have extended into Washington County as well. I think that from an administration standpoint, to your point about Stonington, if anybody assigned to that area, we would effectively, schedule to work either that side of the county or such. So I don't foresee that being an issue. It hasn't been up to this point. But, in good faith, obviously you guys were willing to work with us initially. We would like to see a compromise of sorts there. I know that we had proposed 15, that you guys had agreed for that for Waldo and Penobscot, that we initially had 5 that would have extended into Washington. We'd like to maybe see a compromise at 10 for Washington.
Well, if I was a patrolman working with the sheriff's department, I was in a section. One of the other guys in the section lived in Washington County. And we were on the night shift. First of all, he's not gonna get the slot next to him because the state police always want a slot. So he's gonna end up with the middle slot or the western slot. And if he's got, a deputy in the section with him, let's say that lives in Surrey, he's living in Cherryfield. And you get a call from a domestic in Blue Hill, who's gonna get the call? You're gonna give it to me, living in Blue Hill and whatnot, and he's seldom is he gonna be called out because it just isn't efficient. You're gonna pay him time and a half just to travel. So, we don't have anybody down there. Let's discourage people from being down there. And, nobody's gonna live in Township 10, which is just as bad, or even 9 maybe, but, you start allowing them to live in Cherryfield and travel. I mean, Christ, you're talking 75 miles round trip just to get to work.
So
That's that vehicle, that expense.
So I think to that point, somebody that, lives in Brooksville, we would generally assign to work, Tremont, they would be assigned Stonington. I think that comes down to scheduling. When it comes to limiting somebody to work in, or to live in Washington County, I think that, there's certainly other parts of the county that fall within the scope of the requirement that would even be further away. So I think that while I understand your point, that was our position. That's why we're prepared to come up here and try to find a compromise or a middle ground that we could maybe come to an agreement on.
Can I just speak to the emergency response that a domestic is gonna be a 2-person call out anyway. So it's not like we're gonna be sending that guy from Washington County to a call in Surrey all by himself. It's gonna be a 2-officer response. And likely a supervisor is gonna be called, and most of our supervisors are more handy, so it'd be, okay, you stay home, I'll go.
And that's my point, buddy, is that I've got a guy in my section, when he gets called out, I get called out all the time because I live in the county. And That's what makes this residency thing a little dicey for existing employees, but it's even worse when the guy living in Cherryfield knows it, and we're paying him. Is it 2 hours now, call-out time, or is it 3?
It's straight time. You're getting
No,
one
but
hour, you're getting 1 hour straight time.
Oh, how many hours, 2 or 3 hours?
It depends on the shift that you're working versus day, nights due to working with different shift times with call
So
sharing.
you
with state
could be
police
on
that
call
varies.
for 2 hours on some and 3 hours on another.
It could be 3 on one and 2 on another.
So
It
here
varies.
you got a guy being paid, being on call, and never gets called out.
I mean, generally speaking, our callouts are, the way that they have historically worked is based on what slot you are, or section, or I should say slots, the kind of 3 slots. Based on what slot you are assigned for that shift, you make the callouts to that particular slot. So because lives in Blue Hill and somebody might live in Cherryfield, that doesn't necessarily mean that we would call the guy for Blue Hill to handle that complaint in, slots 2 or slot 3. That would be assigned to the deputy working that. Obviously, if it was a 2-officer call or something that required additional manpower, then we would look at the resources that we have available and prioritize. I think to go from having 5 miles previously in Washington County to no miles is kind of a step backwards in a sense, where we're trying to move forward. That's why we're proposing or trying to find that middle ground.
I want to remind you something. There is a statutory obligation for you people to get commissioner approval to allow anyone to live outside the county. Absent a residency policy, whatnot, I am going to always oppose a deputy living in Washington County. So if we have no residency policy, we're going to fall back to the statute. And you're going to be faced with not getting one out of the 3 commissioners. If you want to lobby the other 2, I don't know how you feel, Jim. The issue there is, the worst case scenario is a deputy living 15 miles away could be Columbia Falls. That's an hour and 50-minute drive to Stonington at regular pace. That's not a code 3, but just at regular pace. And it's just impractical to have a deputy living there and knowing what you're paying them to be on call, you're never going to call them out. And that they're going to be traveling, the potential of 250 miles a week just to get to work in that because of where they live.
Can I ask a theoretical question? Say if we have somebody that lives in the very northern part of Hancock County, right? And they have to actually go through Penobscot down the interstate to respond to Hancock County. I mean, are you going to penalize that person the same way you would somebody living in Washington County, just 10 miles outside the border?
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't, I think,
just
because that's going to be a longer response time from the very northern tip of Hancock County.
Nobody lives up there. That's what happens.
Somebody
That's what
could though.
happens.
It's just, that's why I said theoretically.
Well, theoretically, it's a problem you're gonna have with who you're gonna call and how they're gonna get there and so forth. But at least if you have a call on Route 9, the guy's gonna be a lot better shape than the guy who lived in Washington County trying to.
Right, which is the same argument we've made about how we call people out and respond to calls if we get them.
So your proposal is to do 5 miles, keep it at 5 miles from Washington?
We had 5 miles previously. We obviously had proposed the 15. We were proposing the compromise in the middle at 10 miles for Washington County specifically.
All right, so keep Washington County at 5 miles, do 15 for the others.
Waste of resources.
I think that if we could agree to the 5 miles commissioners, I obviously, our stance is that we don't want to move backwards from what we're trying to accomplish. So, the bottom line is like I said, you guys had worked with us initially. If we could agree to the 5 miles, so at least we stay status quo in that direction. I think that would be beneficial.
I don't recall 5 months. I don't recall that discussion. We had that one guy, Michael, whatever his name was. He needed 60 days or something like that. That was never a policy we had. That was just that one incident that we gave an exception. We never did have. Well, I tell you, 5 miles is better than nothing, because that's what we had. And right now, the sheriff has 4 people living outside the county, it's never come to us for approval for any of them. So this is a step in the right direction, if we can get a residency policy and the sheriff's office follows it, so. I'll agree that 5 miles, hopefully that would somebody in.
You wanna make a motion?
Well, yeah, let's see. To approve the deputy residency employment policy as presented with the exception of 5 mile residency in Washington County.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye. Just a second to go for I have to do the motion.
That's fine. I got a packet of paperwork I'm also gonna hand out with some additions or edits, and some further information regarding the next topic. This one has a few other attachments.
Okay.
So, did you have a chance to read Dakota's presentation?
Yeah.
I don't want to offend you, but I just not interested in hearing this whole thing again.
Okay.
Well, tell me what, the underlined is what's been added or something.
Nope, so the underline was in the initial one that I had forwarded as well. A couple of things that obviously would have changed, would have been based on the conversation, a little bit ago was the DA vehicle, or the DA's office. There's also a form on the very last page, that also would indicate, if you look all the way to the right, that would indicate the mileage predictions out based on how those vehicles have been utilized over the last years. And what those miles would look like come July 2024 and July 2025. That way we can forecast towards the future and what we will need for vehicles to maintain our fleet. So that, there's no surprises. We aren't coming in here asking for 10 vehicles at a time, et cetera. We would be under the proposal that I'm presenting to you today, taking that discharge vehicle out of it. That would put us in good shape to maintain our fleet and having working spares. That would also make it so that the years coming, we would only, or I shouldn't say only, but we would be proposing to replace either 4 to 5 vehicles at a time each of the following years, rather than come into a year where we would need a significant number more. So it keeps us basically on an even playing field and I think a good way to predict what will be needed for years to come.
We didn't vote on it? No.
Sorry, go ahead.
I didn't really get it.
All right, all those in favor?
The residency, well, we didn't vote on it.
I don't,
Yeah, I thought,
or I heard the motion. I don't know if you voted.
Do you think we did vote?
I had written down that you did.
Okay, maybe it was just.
Must have been reluctant. So. We just think we did.
So when it comes to the vehicles, that's the additional documents that I supplied. What it boils down to is the sense of urgency to single source. We have checked on inventory, even with local suppliers, and I quote, one of them said, "Good luck to find any this year." With that being said, due to the constraints, the increased demand, the reduced production, we talked with another supplier yesterday that simply stated, unless you're a large agency or outfitter, or, ordering 100 vehicles or more at a time, you're not gonna get Chevy Tahoes this year. So, it's not just specifically Chevy Tahoes, they're seeing this strain in regards to other makes of police vehicles as well. However, it's just emphasized with the Chevy Tahoes due to the benefits that come along with them. So with that being said, a lot of agencies have also switched over which has contributed to the supply and demand issue. Last Thursday evening, we were made aware of 40 that was made available to over 80 agencies in New England. And those will be spoken for momentarily. With that being said, there's enough to fulfill our needs that we are currently proposing. I have also encompassed some numbers in that proposal. You'll see that those numbers are an increase from 2022. The reason why I referenced 2022 instead of 2023 was simply because that was the numbers I had available to me when I had presented this or had typed it up for your review. At that time, in 2022, we're paying $43,000 for a Tahoe, the police package. Compared to inflation nowadays, in 2024, that same Tahoe is going for $54,000. So there's $11,000 increase there for the vehicle. The fully outfitted cost, with the exception of installing radar, cruiser cameras, and the radios, was $59,769 in 2022. We can assume that that went up slightly, at least in 2023 as well. In 2024, that fully outfitted cost, and this cost should be noted that it does include the installation of the radar and cruiser camera. And that fully outfitted cost is $73,684 for a marked cruiser, decals and all. The only thing that does not include is the radio installation, which we would be looking to keep local at Brown's Communications down the road here. The supplier or the single source that we would be looking to purchase this vehicle from, simply due to the availability and the inability to acquire these vehicles from anywhere else. That supplier is ITS, or Island Tech Services. They're located in Maine. They do employ individuals from the area, so at least the money would impact the local economy in that sense. These vehicles would be crucial in order to maintain our fleet so that we do not need to come back, next year, for example, and ask for a large amount once again. As I had stated, this would keep us on track to replace 4 or 5 vehicles for the following years as well. With that being said, obviously 5 vehicles would be great. I understand that that was in the initial proposal with the district attorney's office vehicle factored in with transferring that Chevy Traverse. Without that, the number of cruisers that we need in order to maintain our fleet this year would be 4. And that fully encompassed price would be $289,869.81. And that would also change the additional or access of additional ARPA funds up to $2,000 payable to Brown's Communication for the radio installations. That would be different than the initial $363,000 number that I had initially provided for the 5 vehicles. Like I said, 5 vehicles would put us in good condition to maintain our fleet. That would make it so next year, looking at the mileage predictions, I would anticipate needing to replace 4 vehicles. If we replace 4 vehicles this year, then we're essentially exchanging it next year for proposing to replace 5 vehicles. So one or the other as far as how many we would need to replace, but what we need currently is 4 to maintain our fleet.
So one of the things when I look at this and I see, it all costing so much more money and everything, is I have to think of it as like, a regular person. And when I think of it, I think, well, that means I'm gonna have to keep the car longer and get more mileage out of the car.
Absolutely.
And I'm kind of wondering why we can't do that and just pay the maintenance costs.
Okay, so to touch on that, when I anticipated maintenance being an issue, right? So I looked at the years of our vehicles and how much we have needed to service them or provide maintenance. And in those, I broke it up from 2021 and older and 2022 and newer. So vehicles 3 years and newer over the last year and 3 months since January of 2023. We have been needed to service those vehicles from 2021 and older on 58 separate occasions. And in that same time frame for our vehicles 2022 and newer, we have needed to service those vehicles 29 separate occasions. So exactly twice as much in order to maintain our vehicles from 2021 and older. In addition to that, a lot of our vehicles, right now, we'd like to see a lot of our major repairs or maintenance we see come anytime when they're starting getting over 80,000 miles, but particularly over 100,000 miles is when we really start to see, like, we've seen idle pulleys and water pumps and transmissions and things like that going, and be your more costly repairs. So that's why we traditionally, and what this proposal would do is we would keep our vehicles, the vehicles we'd be looking at replacing currently would have 115,000 or 112, 103. So they would be some higher mileage vehicles that are costing us more money to maintain. The vehicles that we would be transitioning to spares would be vehicles that come July, when these vehicles, the new cruisers that I'm proposing would be implemented on the road. The vehicles that we're proposing to transition to spares at that time would have 92,000, 96,000 miles, 82,000 miles. So we would be still transitioning our spares to have higher miles, but still be usable and functional. Like I said, in order to maintain our fleet and be able to do that, that's the best scenario I've been able to come up with in order to keep a reoccurring number of vehicles and not ask for a bunch all at once and a massive cost. I understand it is a lot,
So
however.
my only thing is, I hear the numbers, 58 repairs and 29, but I think it would be a more effective argument if we saw the cost of the repairs, because I mean, your maintenance or repair could be oil changes, I don't know, or brakes, which I'll be honest, I don't think that it's kind of all standard. You guys are gonna need to have the brakes changed with all the driving you do.
Right.
But I don't consider it an expensive repair particularly. So I think that part would be a little nicer to know how much it's costing us maintenance wise to maintain the older mileage vehicles.
Mhm.
Do you have to say?
Well, I have two glaring problems here. First is that for decades, 40 plus years, the sheriff's department has given the chief deputy, lieutenants, and detectives passenger cab vehicles. And 2 years ago, we gave the sheriff permission to buy a cruiser vehicles on the patrol deputy. And despite the fact that we've always had an expectation that you put 110,000 on a vehicle before you took it off the front line, he took a $90,000 vehicle from his detective, which is a much better vehicle because of the way it's used, and gave him a brand new $60,000 cruiser. And now I see that one of you guys has a new cruiser. Now, you're complaining about how difficult it is to get cruisers, but you're giving cruisers to people who traditionally always had passenger cabs.
So,
And let me finish.
Sorry.
And at a time when you can buy a passenger cab, with the rebates, quite honestly, it was an eye opener. Seeing a bid for 60,000, and I went up to the lot, and there was several full-size Chevy pickups with V8 engines, full cabs and whatnot, 51, 52,000. So at a time when you can buy those with the rebates for less than 50,000, why are we spending 68,000 to give a cruiser to somebody who traditionally has always had passenger car vehicles? The other thing is that a few years ago, we agreed with the sheriff that it was time to transition from his Fords to Tahoes. And one of the sales pitches was that even at 110,000 miles, they still had very attractive trade-in value. Now I'm seeing here where you're getting rid of vehicles at 70,000, 80,000, and we've always expected that, we've always had been an expectation that it would be over 100,000 before we took these off the front line. So, I'm having a real problem with your proposal for those two reasons. First of all, if you need cruisers right now, you have two. You have a lieutenant that's got one, you have a detective that's got one, and whatnot, that can get straight and go, and we will buy you people a new passenger car vehicle of your choice to replace that. And I gotta believe that passenger car vehicles might be cheaper to maintain than cruisers. But nevertheless, you know, as I look at your list of code, setting right here today and whatnot, I would propose that, who is it, Buddy, you got the cruiser? Buddy's cruiser be striped and given to unaffirmable. And we replace your vehicle and Buddy's vehicle with 2 passenger car vehicles. And the rest of these stay online for another year until we get up to 100,000 miles.
So to touch on that point, none of the vehicles that we're asking to transition to spares have 70,000 miles. When they would transition to spares, if you look at the mileage predictions out, because like I said, these vehicles wouldn't be implemented to the road until that time. The one that, the vehicles that we'd be transitioning to spares would have 92,000, 96,000, 93,000 miles at that time. The vehicle that was highlighted to be transitioned to a spare, which would be unit 211 down at the bottom. That was only going to be replaced if we had transitioned the Traverse to the DA's office. That would be the vehicle that would not be replaced this year. That would stay as a frontline vehicle. So our vehicles that would be transitioned as spares would be in the 90,000. With that being said, I also understand what you're saying with 100,000. Now, the issue that I would say, or I would forecast when it comes to the passenger vehicles is we've traditionally purchased trucks. The DA's office is a great example. They just purchased a truck just recently, and as you had said, obviously the quote came in at 59,000-60,000. They purchased it for 55. These cruisers that we are proposing to buy are actually 54,000. So by having the cruiser itself, the actual vehicle itself, the breakdown is 54,000. The fully outfitted cost is the rest, as I had highlighted in the proposal. So the outfitted cruiser, or the cruiser itself, is actually cheaper than the truck that the county had just purchased. In addition to that, these cruisers come with upgraded suspensions, brakes. They are designed obviously for our purposes that we use them in everyday. We utilize them in everyday work for. So they're overall a better cruiser for what we do, and they actually are a little bit cheaper than the truck that the county had just purchased as well.
Truck the county just purchased was a $61,000 vehicle we got for 54,000.
That's the exact same price that I'm proposing
Yeah,
for
I
a
know,
police vehicle.
But, and it isn't 54, I mean, that's the other thing I don't understand is why aren't we repurposing the equipment for all the vehicles we're taking out on the new vehicles?
Absolutely, so I can touch on that. So the reasoning for that is because we had obviously a lot of the equipment that we had in Ford Explorers didn't transfer over, the sizing of the equipment didn't transfer over to the Chevy Tahoes. So as we started to purchase Chevy Tahoes, we then had to purchase the equipment to fit the Chevy Tahoes. Now, in order to have functioning spares, you'll see that the ones that we're actually selling are Ford Explorers. So I can't take the equipment out of that and put it into a new Chevy Tahoe. It wouldn't fit. So the vehicles that we'd be transitioning to spares would have functioning equipment so that people could effectively use them. And we'd obviously have to pay to outfit these cruisers. Following years from this point forward, we could look at that ability to be able to repurpose some of that equipment depending on model years. However, by getting rid of the 2017s and the 2018 Ford Explorers, I wouldn't be able to use that same equipment in the Chevy Tahoe.
I didn't want to interrupt you, but you said that the cruisers you're listing here that you're going to turn to spares would have 90 to 100,000. At the same time, you're saying that somebody right now has cruisers that you can buy today. So how are you going to get 100,000 miles on an $89,000 vehicle
Yeah. So
if you buy new ones today?
because they're currently being manufactured right now, they would be set to arrive, outfitted, and implemented on the road come July. That's why if you look at that last sheet, I have the predictions, mileage predictions come July 2024, based on their average use. And that's where I get the mileage. When these cruisers would actually be implemented and when they would be transitioned to spares, the cruisers that would be replaced or transitioned to spares, I should say, would have 92,000, 96,000, 93,000 and some change for miles.
So that vehicle has got 74,000 with what?
The vehicle that has 74,000 would effectively anticipated to have 82,440 miles. And with that being said, that vehicle would still be a frontline vehicle. That one would not be replaced this year. That was only going to be replaced if the DA's office did decide to transition that Traverse. So that vehicle would still stay as a frontline vehicle with 82,000 miles. Come next year, when we would look at replacing that vehicle, it would have approximately just under or around 110,000 miles.
Well, I'm curious about your estimations.
So how I can explain how I came to those. What I did is I took really, and those I would say are conservative numbers. And the reason being is some of those vehicles have been sitting as spares for certain times or sitting as repairs and or for maintenance and such. With that being said, a vehicle that we'll take mine into account, or we'll take a vehicle into account like that Ford Explorer assigned unit number 21 assigned to Hunter Fernald. That's a 2020 Ford Explorer. So we acquired that vehicle in 2020. We're now in 2024, not even all the way through, but what I did is I, again, being conservative, I divided the miles by 4, and that's how many miles on average that cruiser has driven in a year. Again, we're only in March for 2024, so that number is very conservative. But with that being said, I then simply just forecasted that out for next year and such. So that's how I came up with that mile prediction. I would say that's a very low number if you were to actually break it down month for month and predict it
Well,
out.
of course, if you got the vehicle in March of 2020, that's years.
Sure.
Well, I still have a problem with buying cruisers for these 5 positions.
Like I said, with the DA's office being approved for their own vehicle, we'd be proposing 4 vehicles. I would amend that number to the number that I had proposed a little bit ago. It would be $289,869.81. And like I said, I understand the passenger car stance. My opposition to that would be simply that, you know, if we purchased the pickup, which would be the passenger car that we traditionally have got in the cruiser, that's also 54,000. And the 54,000 for this cruiser is, like I said, it has better brakes, better suspension. It is specifically designed for what we do. So I think it would serve the county as a benefit. And in addition to that, it would also serve as multi-purpose. So for whatever reason, if we did have cruisers break down or we needed to utilize it as a frontline vehicle, we would have that opportunity to, rather than a passenger car that we wouldn't.
You're putting $15,000 worth of equipment into this $54,000 cruiser, is that correct?
So the equipment is, well, the vehicle is 54,000. The fully outfitted price to include decal, installation of the radar, the cruiser, everything, the whole thing would be for a marked cruiser, $73,684.42 per cruiser. The reason for that number is because a lot of it is in the inflation of vehicles that we've all seen over the last couple of years. But 11,000 of that is simply solely in the vehicle, bringing it to that 54,000 in comparison to what we've paid in previous years.
I guess I understand what you're saying, because if you say that the vehicle costs 54,000, we're gonna pay 73,000, I mean, that's over $19,000 in equipment that we're putting on this thing.
You're correct. In previous years, we'll look at 2022, for example, we actually saved $2,000 per cruiser that year by going to McGovern's and have them outfit the cruiser entirely rather than source it out to different places. And at that time, we had outfitted that cruiser with $16,769 worth of equipment. So to say that 19,000 is what it would require this year to outfit a cruiser 2 years later, I mean, inflation with everything, that's not as much of a significant increase when you look at it in that regard.
Does that include a radio?
A radio?
The 19,000 include buying a radio?
No, that does not include radio.
You got
We would
$19,000 worth of lights and sirens?
That's the cost for the
I
prisoner
mean,
transport
you're
gauge.
reusing your cameras, you're reusing your laptops, you're reusing
Yep, that's the cost for the lights, that's the cost for the prisoner transport cage, the center console. It's the decals, the labor, it is fully encompassed, that is the cruiser package price.
Well, I'm not gonna support a purchase unless they get back to buying passenger car vehicles for those 5 positions.
So justify to me why it needs to be a truck.
Why it needs to be a truck?
Yeah, like, okay, so you want it to be the Tahoe, but you're saying, well, when we don't do the Tahoe, it's a pickup truck.
Yeah, so traditionally,
Pickup truck.
under Commissioner Clark's watch and also under ours, traditionally that position more often than not has been a pickup truck or an SUV. I believe there was an SUV years ago in maybe Chief Kane's position. I don't remember. With that being said, that's the way it's always been. We have to, we respond to similar calls, with the supervisors on scene. We have the same equipment issued to us. We have the same ability to work road shifts, overtime shifts that we'll often fill in for when staffing needs or requires it. And so with that being said, looking at it from a cost perspective, where I stand right now, to spend 54,000 on a truck, a passenger vehicle, and the same cost to outfit it versus 54,000 and a police package vehicle in the same cost to outfit it, I think we stand to serve a better purpose, to have the vehicle, if it's going to cost the same, that specifically meets our needs. It has greater storage to store stuff inside rather than in the weather conditions in the bed of the truck. And in addition to that, like I had mentioned, it has better safety features ultimately. It has better brakes, better suspension. It would just overall better serve our purposes. And for the same amount of money, I don't know why we would purchase a truck versus a vehicle that's specifically designed for us. Additionally, it also allows us the ability, like I had mentioned, if for whatever reason we needed vehicles for our front line, maybe we had a crash or maintenance or a transmission or something significant, we would already have that vehicle so that we could letter it up, we could put it on the road as a frontline vehicle, where we wouldn't have that same ability if it was a truck.
What is it that you, since that's one of the major issues you have to do, what's the vehicle that you think is more appropriate?
Well, I think to start with, Chevy Traverse for a detective is an excellent vehicle for a detective. Why are we having, and this $54,000, these $54,000 vehicle at the aid would not have happened, at least not with my approval, had I known that there was a $40,000 vehicle sitting on the lot out there. When I asked the salesman, I said, what's the difference between your 60,000 and your 50,000? He said, well, heated steering wheel and power seats. Well, gentlemen, go put your mittens on, reach down between your legs, pull the lever up. Because as far as I'm concerned, we need to be down in the upper 40s to buy vehicles because there's no reason to be spending $60,000.
Yeah, these cruisers don't have heated steering.
Well, that's what the cruiser did. So I mean, we can buy today vehicles for those 5 positions at less than $50,000. And pickup truck is not being divider, the detectives don't need a divider in there, and some of the equipment that these fully equipped cruisers have.
I guess what I would say in that regard is it, at the end of the day, it's gonna boil down to safety, right? We're expected to respond to these calls. We do our everyday work. These cruisers are in conditions when other people aren't on the road. And that's exactly why they create a vehicle. That's the purposes. Now when you take a vehicle that's not designed for these purposes and you put them out there with the suspension that is not designed for us, the brakes that are not designed for our driving and such, I mean, it's just for a similar dollar amount or the same dollar amount, you're just trading safety concerns.
You're talking 50 years of tradition to serve this well. Lieutenants, and again, it's not the same price. There's no way you're gonna get this cruiser the same price as you would get a personal car vehicle, especially for detectives who don't need.
In this proposal, I'm not looking at replacing a detective's vehicle. I'm looking at replacing 3 frontline vehicles and I say 4 frontline vehicles, 3 in patrol, and my vehicle that would be due to be replaced this year. I'm not looking to replace a detective's vehicle. I'm not looking to replace a vehicle with 70,000 miles on it. These are simply vehicles that we need in order to maintain our fleet so that we don't come back to next year and say, now I need 9 vehicles because they all have 110,000 miles on them.
Yeah, but I think Commissioner Clark's point is he wants to move the Chevy Tahoes that maybe are being used by detectives or other folks to supervisors to frontline vehicles.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. Like I was saying, I think that my concern that I've echoed is the ability to purchase a pickup truck that we just did for the district attorney's office for 54,000. This is a vehicle that's specifically designed for us for 54,000. So we're talking about apples to apples as far as cost goes. We're not coming in here, asking for that $60,000 vehicle. This was the best pricing that we're able to find. This is pricing that if we do not get these now, like I said, a local dealership, Darlings, for example, last week, Thursday, they said, good luck finding any this year. So we are going to be in a predicament come July, August, when we want to revisit this, and we're not going to have vehicles to purchase. And what that's going to do effectively is next year, we're going to have 10 vehicles, 8 vehicles that we are going to have to come back in here and ask for 700,000 to replace those vehicles because the maintenance is going to be through the roof. We're going to have 8 vehicles over 110,000 miles, and we're going to run into the same problem that we were in last year. And so to offset that, to come in and be able to forecast for the future and say, this is a steady plan. We replace 4 or 5 vehicles every year. We don't have to come in, ask for 10 at a time. This is just simply what they cost nowadays. And the adjustment in price, as you can see, the vast majority of that is just inflation in the vehicle costs. I mean, we saw that with the DAC vehicle last meeting.
Can it?
Yeah.
Can it wait a week?
Unfortunately, it can't because these 40 vehicles were they were made available to 80 agencies throughout New England. And I know other agencies that are looking for 5 or 10 at a time. So as of right now, there's enough remaining for us to fulfill our needs. A week from now, it's likely not the case.
Only because in a week, they're going to be doing a review of ARPA spending.
So I talked to a very large dealership, and when GM opens up these portals for people to bid and acquire vehicles, typically that process is open for 2 weeks. This guy told me basically that process was open for 2 hours before all the vehicles were already allotted. So that's the current crisis that we're in with the vehicle issue.
And given that I wouldn't have presented this all at once and asked for that number. The reasoning for that is due to the shortage of vehicles and our inability to get them at a later time. If I had that luxury, I would have presented it in a different way and came to you guys in a different sense.
Well, I mean, we can talk this thing to death. I'm telling you right now, my position right now is that looking at this, if you reassign your vehicle, your vehicle to patrol and the detective vehicle patrol will buy you 3 more passenger car vehicles. So that's the position I'm taking today. And that's it.
I just don't understand the argument when we're telling you we can get
Listen, I'm
the
tired
same
of listening to you.
vehicles. I mean,
I'm
the
not gonna-
culture.
I'm not buying the
The
argument.
culture of law enforcement has changed since you've been the sheriff. And now we have people like me in Dakota that like to go out and be proactive and afford that service to the public that we serve. So the best way for us to do that and the safest way for us to do that is in a vehicle that is designed to do that job. So it's not about the price of the vehicle, it's about the purpose of the vehicle, right? And we have to outfit that
I'm
the way.
not buying it, but save it.
Okay.
So I guess there's no action on that.
Not any motion. Unless you have a
I
motion.
do not have a motion.
Thank you.
think we've introduced the new chief. Gentlemen, this is Bill Birch, he's the new chief deputy. He may stay away because he's got a cold. Sure.
Thank you.
There's room. That is, there's room.
Yeah.
You got the floor.
Gentlemen,
Update.
old jail. Well, they're plugging away over there, as you may have seen. And they're still raking out the joints, moving around the corner. One of the issues, I have to consult about is the Jersey barriers. We've got them all out of the way.
How many are there?
I think 20, 21. Oh. And they're over down by the little shed up by the riverbank. And the question is, what are we gonna do with it? We had a deal where the Historical Society was gonna pay us for a bunch of those. Well, they never did. And so they're ours. And so I wonder if you might consider like a loan and reclaim agreement. I've heard that a couple of parties, maybe the airport even, could use them provisionally and store them there, and maybe we could reclaim them if we ever needed to come again. Bluegill Fairgrounds has said the same thing.
I don't know what we ever repurpose those things.
I don't either, but,
That's how we need them, that's the problem.
right.
We hide them again.
Or are we looking to
Is there a
to
market?
just,
Is there a market?
so possibly, I don't know. If that's the thing to do, I certainly.
Does the airport, do they make a case for needing them?
Not really. I'm kind of thinking offhand,
I think we would store them for us.
for sure.
What are we storing them for? I mean,
Right.
50 years down the road, they're still sitting there like the rest of the junkies.
Maybe,
Yeah,
maybe you can,
that's probably what, may happen.
maybe you can see if,
Once you start, put the word, see if there's a market for those. Even if we had to piece them out, about half a dozen to local contractors, you know what I mean? I just can't believe, if they don't have them, there isn't, if the price was right, there would be a market
Yeah.
for those.
That's what I'll do. I'll look to sell.
Did you ever get a chance to talk with Miller about those as well, if there was any that he thought he might need for anything?
I did, and his answer was not at this time. Initially, you're right, but that's what we thought we do.
Because they do make a good bank retention,
Sure, if we had,
sure.
but at that time, we only had, I think, we bought 7. And now we're stuck with like 20, so it's a little different use, but I will.
What do you mean, you bought 7?
Well, the historical
We
society,
bought them all, but
we did, we bought them all,
But
but
they
they
we
were,
agreed to pay for 7, they were gonna.
That's
pay the
right.
balance.
yeah.
and they just,
Bottom line is we own them all.
that's right.
I guess by general consensus, Dennis, you just see if you,
And I would check with Miller. Again, you might have a place that, as you said, down by the boat launch there. You might have some useful.
oh, yes, you're right.
Yeah, and I'm not necessarily saying you need them all or anything like that, but it would be a shame to give them up if we
And
could
then we
use them
need them.
somewhere and then we need them
Exactly.
again.
For sure.
Because price probably isn't gonna go down what we paid for them before, I'm assuming, but.
all right. Special, sheriff office.
Sheriff's office update. We're kind of in a holding pattern until we get warmer weather with the concrete, which is a little disappointing. We don't have that heat belt going. They're waiting on parts. And
Are we using
we're
it?
waiting on them.
Are we using it?
We are, yeah. And they've got the drawings are coming up for the rail. They've got a provisional rail there. So they're being used, working well. Although I hate to be throwing salt on that concrete that when we could have a snow melt working, but that's another measure of frustration. There is the issue of the tower. Now, we've agreed on the replacement of all of the windows, features in the storefront. in the sheriff's office and the tower, and I do have that change order for the commission to sign. And that is for the stated figure of 245, 345 and 45 cents.
So, tell me again, how much?
This has already been pretty much approved for that
You
tower.
approved it when we had the discussion with
That with four options, the A, B, and D that you approved, yeah.
So do you think we need action or just a signature?
I would assume your,
Just
the
the
signature is
signature.
just confirming the action you took before.
and they'll make that.
I do have an original printout copy over there in the signature file too, so I can do
Oh,
that.
good. So you don't
I
need
can
that.
do that
Okay.
after.
Thank you.
All right, so we've already approved it. Yeah, so just a minute, if you sign. Yeah, okay.
Right. Jail plumbing update. I don't know if you saw the cut sheets on our devices, around 50 grand, I think it was. And that replaces in A, B, C, D, part of E, and over in holding in H. The push button water fountains and the toilets. And this will prevent abuse of those devices. And there will no longer be the pneumatic air drive units, these will be electric. So we'll have, the electrician will install power, low voltage into each of those access spaces in the jail between cells and sometimes between blocks. And in E block, we may have to install a console to get some controls down there because all of that's through the wall. As you're well aware.
So are those, is that something we need to?
No, it isn't. It's just to keep you for the price is building, and Nichols Plumbing is dealing with, although I will say, EOSHA is allowing us to deal with Icon directly because of any warranty issues that may come up, rather than have us have to contact EOSHA over a warranty item. We can go directly to them, so they can waive their markup on that material, and so that's a good thing. And still we'll they're dealing with the subs, Nichols Plumbing and Micron Electric.
What are they saying in terms of how long it's gonna take to get all of it?
They said that we want to do it 2 phases because they can't really get under the garage at this time. Well, they're estimating like 3 weeks. You can have these devices all changed out. And so hopefully, when Nichols gets back to EOSHA, and we brought Ronnie, our electrician, through yesterday. Not, we'll have a price to
I
go
thought he
on.
retired.
Huh?
I thought he retired. Robbie Fortier?
Oh, no, not Ron Bishop.
Oh.
Yeah, Ron Fortier did retire. And, so we've got our fingers crossed with final. It seems like we keep backloading these jobs and without really completing any, and that's kind of frustrating, but the weather's a little bit against us.
So at this time, you don't have a full.
I don't have that figured out.
Full quote.
I thought we might for today, but
Okay.
we didn't. We have just the materials,
Still-
not
Still
the
building.
contractor prices. Waiting on.
All right, we got our sprinkler system.
Yeah, if you saw that proposal, this is the antifreeze and the glycol solution that is in the piping and the cold areas over at the annex. And after a period of time, it separates and even become flammable in some cases, which seems counterintuitive for a sprinkler system. But they say we have to have that changed. And that's the deal with that, is that we would, sprinkler systems will come in and pump out the old material, put in a vacuum, and then introduce the new material for that price that you see,
Extra 5,000.
which is 5,800 or so.
So we need to take action on that.
Yeah, I had
Yes.
this motion on one of my
Yeah, I thought you added
versions.
that.
Yeah, but it didn't make it to the
In the
last.
sprinkler, I thought.
Yeah, I didn't make it to the last. So, Dennis, if you just help craft this motion, are we accepting, we don't accepting your, but what is this, a quote?
It is, and it's,
So wait.
it's like an e-quote, so you just click yes and send it back, but
So-
I haven't done that.
So this is for the DA's office?
It's for the D sprinkler system DA's office, yes.
So to approve the quote from
Sprinkler systems.
Sprinkler Systems Incorporated in the amount of
$5,877.
$5,877.
77.
877. And just overall, just what's an upgrade to a sprinkler system, or is it,
Yes,
where's the sprinkler system going?
that's the DA's office, annex. 70 State Street.
All right, let's see if I got this. To approve the quote from Sprinkler Systems, Inc. in the amount of $5,877 for upgrades to the DA's office sprinkler system. Do that, John?
Seconded.
To be paid for,
We're gonna pay for this from ARPA?
Sure.
Well, I wasn't sure if
Yeah,
this is
it's-
part of your regular budget or not.
I'm wide open to it, yeah, sure. I have reserve and I have ARPA.
Well,
And you can pay for everything that happens at the jail.
Yes. So ARPA, is great.
So, ARPA sounds good.
you all? To approve the quote from Sprinkler Systems, Inc. in the amount of $5,877 for upgrades to the DA's office sprinkler system to be paid for from the ARPA funds.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Now we've got a generator.
And this is to replace the courthouse generator. And I put typically you'd have a contractor dealing with this, but we're sort of acting as our own general contractor in this case. And so we are using a separate crane company to come meet the generator as delivered and remove the whole house we have over it, remove the generator, and then our electrician will do the setup, the phasing and the connections, and testing will be done by.
So is the 73,300 just for Southwest Milton's share, or is that the whole project?
That's the whole project, and that's a not to exceed number, maybe less. There's some chance, when this gets done, I don't need to dive into the weeds, they'll load the old generator on and haul it back and give it a once over. And instead of the disposal fee you see, we may even get like
Back.
4,500 back on it. So
Okay, so does this meet your intent to approve the purchase from Southwest Milton for a 200K generator for the purchase and installation cost not to exceed $73,300 will be paid
75,000.
70, I'm sorry, I had it right here. 75,300 to be paid from ARPA funds. Does that do it, Dennis?
Absolutely.
Seconded. All those in favor?
All right,
That's great, Jen. And then these numbers like that, 5877, I just see this conversation. It seems like in these low numbers, I don't want to get into the habit of nickel and diming. And it seemed like you almost wanted kind of a larger project to take off the table with ARPA. So again, trying not to go to the well too often with this, but it's much appreciated. And
there's something about it.
Well, wait till you see the
Spreadsheet next week.
next week, yeah.
Well, because, my theory, whatever we can get paid for the data, we don't have to tax the people 2 years down the road for us too.
It's for sure, and I couldn't agree more, and it's really been a leg up for us.
And remember that a week from today, if all goes well, we're gonna be meeting just to talk about our rights.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And thanks very much.
Monica, I'm gonna make a motion to offer up the county administrator to sign the Spyglass snapshot audit agreement. Does that meet your,
Yeah, that should take care of it.
that meets your needs?
Yes.
Seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you for your presentation.
You're welcome. I also have the addition, it was in the notes of, yes, the cost for the single audit from,
Yeah, I had these.
request to spend $5,000 in ARPA funds to cover the cost of the single audit by Chester Kearney for 2022.
So I've got to type this again. It was in one of my other versions. She didn't make it to this one. Motion to approve
Spending $5,000 in ARPA funds
$5,000 from ARPA funds
for the 2022 single audit,
2022
single audit.
single audit for ARPA.
Yes. From Chester Kearney. They audited ARPA. That's what they chose because they choose something that is federal funds.
What's the?
Chester, KEAR.
KEAR, anyone?
Yes,
So is that all you need?
Yes.
Spending 5,000 ARPA funds for 2020,
2022.
single audit ARPA from Chester.
Yes,
Seconded, all those in favor? Aye.
thank you.
So I'm gonna move to approve the appointment of Brittany Franzak of Lloyd as a full-time administrative assistant to the commissioners. Office at pay grade 9, step D, effective April 6, 2024. Is that correct, Michael?
That's correct.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
So we have our executive session, so you can do county administrator comments.
So just a comment for the record, next Tuesday, 8:30 a.m. on the 2nd, we're scheduling the workshop to discuss the other ARPA projects. We did meet with the staff last week, the department heads, and there are several different requests put forward, so I'm putting that up right now. We'll get the spreadsheet done along with some supporting documentation, and we'll have those and whatever else that all the commissioners bring to the table for at least discussion. And perhaps at least getting tracks filled in as to where you want to focus things, I guess.
Do you have any comments for future agendas? No? All right, we have a motion.
I move to adjourn.
Seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.